Welcome back, MTG fans. Desolator Magic here, and I have great news, although it's probably not news because you follow MTG Online, and by that I mean you're online following MTG, not MTG Online, the program, which is a complete travesty. But that's the content for another video, although if you did want to watch videos that totally just take a dump all over MTGO, not that hard to find on YouTube. But for now, let's talk about the decree, the royal decree by the Wizards of the Realm on January 18th in the year of our Lord 2016. They have decreed that Summer Bloom and Splinter Twin are now both banished. They have been banished from the kingdom that is Modern. That's a shame. So I knew a ton of people playing those decks. I didn't care for them, but I don't like most of the top decks in Modern, and neither does anybody else because they're OP and annoying. So that's why they keep winning. That's why they're so popular. So nothing wrong with that. But the reason that they said the cards are banned are kind of different from the real reason that they were banned. So let's break that down real quick. The whole statement announcement thing basically starts with, we look for competitively viable decks that frequently win before the fourth turn. That's really as far as you need to read. They talk about, how many people made it to the top 8 and how it was too many and it's obviously too powerful, blah, 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 blah. But they kept reiterating, the decks frequently win before the fourth turn, over and over and over. Now, for Amulet Bloom, that is kind of true, but Splinter Twin, I don't know about that. I mean, that hasn't been my experience. It didn't look like it won really often on turn 3. I maybe saw turn 3 win 1 or 2 times. I don't know what the percentages were on it, but I don't think it was real consistent. So I don't know what they mean by competitively viable decks, but frequently win before fourth turn, that is not the first time they've used that phrase. The whole structure of Modern, the whole basis, the whole infrastructure when they designed Modern was to not let people win before the fourth turn because otherwise it would basically be Vintage and Legacy, because those win like when you flip the freaking coin to roll the dice or get out of your car when you think about going to the tournament. I mean, it's like, it's not even Magic. It's pretty much just like rock, paper, scissors and then hit the snack bar. So I heard those tournaments usually have about 5-minute rounds, but they didn't want Modern to become that. I can't imagine why. So they kind of wanted like a super powered, standard on steroids, making use of older cards, real flexible, like super high powered shootout, because it is really quite fun. If you got, 10 times more cards to build with at least, you can build some pretty crazy stuff, and that's what they want, is creativity, new ideas, and just turbo powered decks that work way more consistently. It's not like playing standard where your deck just fails to work like 15% of the time no matter what you build. So I kind of get that. So they just came up with the number 4 and said that's what it's going to be, the fourth turn. I thought it could have been third because most control spells cost 2, but then everybody would have to be running control and only red and blue would really have a chance, which is still actually kind of true, but they decided to bump it to the fourth just to really give it a chance. So it's not like an absolute quick draw shootout. And I think that was a proper choice. Does Splinter Twin really win frequently before the fourth turn? Not really. That hasn't been my experience. I don't know what the exact precise probability of it doing that was, because it's really complex in how it works. It would be just a nightmare to try to calculate that, but I haven't seen it very often. It's usually turn 4 or even 5. It can win on turn 3, and it's very hard to stop on turn 3, but you really only have one thing to stop, and you know exactly what their deck does. It's just maybe by turn 3 you don't know what deck they're playing for sure, I guess. They could be playing a slightly different deck, and you wouldn't know it. But that brings me to the real reason they banned it. And in fact, Wizards outlined this later in the article. It's actually further down, buried at the very end of the announcement, the real reason that they banned Splinter Twin. It's just basically too many people are playing it. That's what it comes down to. So they kind of left this vague gray area. They first said, we don't like decks that win before turn 4, and at the very end they slip in, actually just too many people are playing it. We don't give a crap if this wins on turn 3 1% of the time. We just hate the deck because too many people are playing it and it's too cheap to build. That's pretty much what it comes down to. So let me use a real life example to outline this. I had one of my friends go to a national tournament, or it was maybe regional or something. It was a big tournament. It wasn't a huge, like a Grand Prix or something, but it was a really big tournament. He had to drive, a couple hundred miles to get to it. And he said it was just nothing but Amulet Bloom, Splinter Twin, and then he named 2 other decks that I've sort of heard of. And that was it. It was just nothing but mirror matches, and people were really not having a good attitude or not having a good outlook on the rest of the tournament because they knew everybody had their idea, as if I should even use that term. They're all just a bunch of net deckers copying the same deck and then trying to win with it, which is pretty cheap. But I think it had more to do with the popularity because in this article, Wizards mentioned, out of this many competitors, this deck got to the top 8 X amount of times, and a lot of people were showing up with it. And then, other players have told me, yeah, it's really, 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 really popular. People on online forums are saying, yeah, nobody's showing up with anything but Bloom and Splinter Twin, Bloom and Splinter Twin. So it wasn't just the deck's getting old. It's moderately almost overpowered, but holy crap were people showing up with it. So I think it just kind of net decked itself to death, which is hilarious. I never even put that as a reason that I hate net decking in my anti-net decking video, that you could actually just annoy the crap out of people to the point where 30% of people show up with the same deck or whatever, and then Wizards has to ban it just because too many people are showing up with it. So they conceived of it as, if so many people are showing up with it, then it must be too powerful, when in reality, it just was really cheap to build, money-wise, and it could reasonably be expected to win. So it wasn't just overpowered, dominating, oh my gosh, nothing can beat it, it's so unstoppable. It's just too many people are showing up with it, and it's good enough. I think that was the combination that killed it. They actually really should have just opened the article with that instead of, we also look for decks that hold a large enough percentage of the competitive field to reduce the diversity of the format. No, it's not even we also. That's the reason. I mean, that's it. They should have led with that, but people's heads would have exploded. People are already pretty pissed already, so that wouldn't have went well. Now, Amulet Bloom, yeah, that would win before the 4th turn. That thing should have been banned a long time ago. I hate that deck. It just seems like a bunch of random crap that has nothing to do with each other, duct taped together, and it kind of works, which is how I describe every single Vintage or Legacy deck I've ever seen. So, I mean, you got your Amulet, then you got your Summer Bloom, and then you got like the Simic Growth Chamber that you can bounce, but then because of a rules technicality, you can tap it during the resolution for mana, and then after that you bounce it, so then you get a mana for free, and that's just a blatant rules violation without actually violating the rules. So instead of changing the rules, they just got rid of the deck. So that works. But then, then it's Primeval Titan, or then you got Hive Mind mixed with Summoner's Pact, which, if you ask me, they should have banned Summoner's Pact and just left the rest of the deck, because that was a load of crap. But even with Primeval Titan, it would have won too often. So even they said something similar to that. The key to the deck, the really exploity part, was Summer Bloom, because it's just too fast with Summer Bloom. You don't have any time to react, and half the stuff in the deck you couldn't stop without Squelch or Trickbind, which not that many people play. I mean, they're moderately powerful or popular, but really, honestly, not that many people play those because they don't think they need to. So, unlike Splinter Twin, which is clearly just banned due to the volume of people playing with it, I mean, I don't care what they say, that's why it was banned. Amulet Bloom, purely just because it won way the crap too often on turn 3. I mean, that's the only reason they banned it. Now, anything you say about Amulet Bloom, you could really say probably about 10 other decks in Modern. So, people were too annoyed by it, it was too hard to stop, too much of it didn't really involve spells, it was triggers and abilities, and, everything that people have complaints about with really popular Modern decks, they don't really care about any of that. So all of that was true, it's just not why they banned it. They just plain banned it because it frequently wins before turn 4. So that one they were actually telling the truth about. Because I could name plenty of decks where I just think that I hate waiting for the combo to go off. I hate somebody mulliganing down to 3 constantly. It's way too annoying. It's a giant waste of time. Yeah, Wizards doesn't give a crap about that. They only care if you win on turn 3 a little bit too often. So that one I think they were telling the truth about. It's just extra frosting on the top that everybody hated the deck and they had a couple complaints about it. I still think, like I said, they should have really, really, really banned Summoner's Pact as well at the same time, but taking out Summer Bloom just killed the deck. I think you could actually play without it. It would just be a couple turns slower, and that that's what they were going for. So it's still an annoying as crap deck, but I think it's going to lose a lot of popularity now that it doesn't win on turn 3 or 4 or maybe even 5. So that's fine with me. So that's what I think about those 2 specific bannings and why they were banned versus why they said they were banned. And obviously there's a little discrepancy there in my opinion, at least on one of them. But I don't like the whole process of how they pick out bans. What they should do is review every single card and say, oh my god, that is way too powerful. Don't even let it get exploited. Just if it's a card that does blah, ban it before it becomes a problem so that people don't show up and ruin 1 or 2 tournaments. I mean, it seems really, really, really obvious. The ones I always complain about is like Choke, which is 8th edition, so it just missed being illegal, just barely, and it was just missed by the R&D department for maybe being a little bit too powerful. Although, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Modern was invented yet in 2003. I'm actually pretty sure it was not invented yet in 2003. So they had no idea that that would be used outside the block it was designed for, which is why 8th edition should not be the cutoff. I mean, I could talk about that for days, and time shifted, oh my god, don't even get me started. So a lot of those, like, whole blocks should just be banned, or whole concepts in the block should be banned, but other than that, they should just look at all cards that are legal in Modern and pick out, like, 20 or 30 and just say, these are just too unfair. Like, little to nobody is playing with these cards, but they're just too unfair to be in Modern. Because then they ban a card like Choke or Boil, or I think there's actually 4 more versions of Boil. There's like blow up every type of land. I think there's 5 of them. Just ban them. They're just too powerful. Because they've even said something to the effect of, we don't like cards that say, I play it, you lose. Under certain circumstances. I play it, if you're playing this deck, you're shut down, you literally cannot win because I played this, but it was random chance that I happened to sit down across from a person playing blue, and now I'm playing Boil. You know, it's too powerful against one small group, and then it eliminates blue like as a color almost. I mean, people gotta build their whole deck around just this one card, and it just ruins it. So if they took really unpopular cards that were still OP and banned them, people would be like, oh yeah, that's OP, instead of, oh my god, that's in my deck, you ruined my deck. They'd actually be happy about the ban. So why they don't do that, I don't know. Probably because they don't want to be seen as, you know, correctionist, like they don't want to be, oh, we're time traveling back in time and fixing problems, because that would be admitting that they were wrong. Well, I mean, just admit you're wrong, Wizards. Holy crap, you are so wrong about some of these cards. Oh my god, like Isochron Scepter, it's in my deck and I want it to be banned. I mean, Isochron Scepter with Angel's Grace on it. Every single turn, I can't win, or I can't lose the game. I mean, is that a little much, maybe? Silence? I mean, it's so hard to play around those 2 combos. Because Silence, on Isochron, you cannot play any spells on your entire turn for the rest of the game. And then Isochron with Angel's Grace, I can't lose on any given turn that I want for the rest of the game, unless you have an artifact removal spell, which not every deck has, especially in Modern. So then you gotta sideboard it in after you've already lost, and it's just way too powerful. Even like Isochron with like a goblin summoning spell. I mean, oh, infinite goblin tokens, cool, you know, or even a tap manipulation artifact deck. I've seen that where it's just waiting for an infinite loop to happen. It's not fair. It really isn't. But why has Isochron Scepter not been banned? Because nobody plays with it in their deck. And by nobody, I mean probably less than 1% of Modern decks contain Isochron. So it's off their radar and they don't care. So it's overpowered as crap, but it's not really a problem because nobody's playing with it. Well, how would you like to be that one guy that shows up to a tournament with like a perfect top tier proven deck and then you lose to some Isochron Scepter infinite combo deck? Well, you know, you're going to feel pretty crappy, and you don't really care if, you know, 500 people are playing it or that one person is playing it. It's still an overpowered combo. So that's what I think Wizards should do. They should go find cards that are just ridiculously overpowered and just ban them. Just get it over with. They only have to do it once because right now, when they make new standards cards, they consider if they're too powerful in Modern before they even print them. I mean, that's deeply suspected, and they might have even actually confirmed that themselves. The whole Treasure Cruise Dig Through Time thing, I don't think those were like, oh my god, they're ruining Modern, it's an emergency. They just kind of thought, oh yeah, they kind of beefed up some decks. We kind of made a little slip up there. Because usually something that costs like 8 and requires a ton of stuff to be in the graveyard, you can't really do much with that. So it was actually kind of a surprise to them that that became a really big thing in Modern. And then they fixed it. So that just proves they're really paranoid about new cards not breaking Modern, not just throwing a monkey wrench in every type of deck. You know, so they obviously, when they design Standard, they have Modern in mind. as well. So if they got rid of all the OP cards in the old sets for Modern, they'd only have to do it once. They almost wouldn't even have to ban anything ever again if they didn't make any mistakes. They could just ban 10, 20, 30 cards, get it over with, and then there you go. People could go on with their lives playing Modern and incorporating some standard, spells, shaking up the meta a little bit, and it would just be a more fun format, instead of let's wait to see what the next exploit deck is. Because some of these decks were invented really recently. Like, I don't remember hearing about Splinter Twin for all that long. I think Amulet Bloom might have predated it significantly, but some of them, it's a real wonder why they lasted longer than they did. If you look at the ban list, those are pretty bad. I mean, if you look back at some of the cards that were banned and why, and how many tournaments they destroyed before they were banned, oh, it's not pretty. Not pretty at all. So why would they possibly take cards that aren't a problem yet, and then wait a year and now they're a problem, everybody's pissed, completely ruins an entire tournament or two, then they ban the card. And then everybody with it in their deck is pissed. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So they really should just look for ones that are screaming, hey, infinite combo me, and get rid of the card in the first place, the older version, and then they would have to care a lot less about what they printed in Standard even. So it just seems so obvious, and they won't do it. And as long as they continue to do that, they're just going to have nothing but angry Modern players. But, Modern players are pretty angry to begin with, so sometimes you just can't win. Speaking of you just can't win, wait until you see the next version of my Beholder deck. I am just waiting on some cards to come in the mail. And in fact, this deck is the perfect example of what's going to happen if Wizards doesn't start getting proactive about banning cards. I built this deck to be so unbelievably obnoxious, and it just shuts down the other player. No matter what they're doing, it stops it, universally cancels any deck, and doesn't even allow them to play Magic, which, word for word, is what they said they don't want happening. But guess what? They didn't ban Isochron, so I'm building it. I want to win at Magic. I don't like the current top decks. They're annoying and OP, so I'm going to build the exact same thing. Now, if they would have already banned Isochron, saying, I wonder if sometime in the next 12 or 13 years, a spell will come about that we don't want somebody to infinitely repeat, or to rely on just a tap mechanic when they know darn well that you could untap an artifact, which my deck doesn't even do. But you could make so many bad Isochron decks, it's just they're not quite good enough to disrupt tournaments. They're good, but it's not quite there yet. But in the next 5 years, sure, Isochron will be banned, of course. I mean, it's like a given, because there will be a spell printed in Standard, and they'll go, oops, we can't really let them photocopy that, oops, probably gonna have to ban Isochron, and then everybody's already pissed because they're reactionary. You can't be reactionary. You're gonna always have mad people if you're reactionary. So I really would not be in the least bit surprised if this deck gets banned in the near future, because it really, really, really is unfair. It's just utterly stupid. I mean, I would hate to play against it. I think it's absolutely no fun, but Modern is a complete battlefield and all is fair in love and war, and I like winning. So, tough nuts. And that's what everybody says. This is what it comes down to. Every Modern deck engineer says this. If Wizards doesn't want me playing this deck, if they think it's too powerful, then ban it. In the meantime, I'm going to play it. And that's the mentality that ruins the game. And you know what? I share that mentality. If people are going to run decks that I deem unfair, then I'm going to run a deck that I deem unfair. It's perfectly fair, then, I guess. Like, I thought that Amulet Bloom was OP as crap and too hard to stop. And so I built a deck that's OP as crap and too hard to stop. Now we're on a level playing field. And then Wizards fixed retroactively Amulet Bloom after people already have been playing it for this long. They fixed the situation of having that exist, and they haven't fixed my deck because they just don't want to take the time to go back and look and say, oh, here's a handful of cards that we just cannot accept being in Modern. So my whole deck, this Beholder 3.0 that I'm working on, like every single card has similar complaints in the comment section on the Gatherer website, which is what I showed for the card Boil. You definitely want to read them. Some of them are utterly hilarious because it's like exactly how I feel about the card, except like 20 other people feeling the exact same way, and Wizards just blows them off. They don't care. By the way, another 8th edition card. 8th edition itself should be banned from Modern. Just that's how they could start this process. Ban the entirety of 8th edition. Nobody would be mad about that. I mean, it's the most hated set of cards in Modern as a whole. It really, really, really is. So, I mean, in this deck, you've got Isochron Scepter, which is basically Splinter Twin in artifact form. I mean, it's exactly as exploitable, if not worse. And then I've got, like, Angel's Grace, which is a horrible combo. And then we got Silence, which is a horrible combo. That might make the final cut. Then we've got, like, what even is it? Hindering Light? You want to see that attached to Isochron? Oh my god. And then, let's see, what else is it going to put in there? Meddling Mage, to make sure that whatever you try to do, screw you. So it's not going to be a very friendly deck, and it's all because of Isochron. But if you took Isochron out, it's a good deck, but it's just not like, hey, I'm going to photocopy this spell, because that's what everybody calls it, either the stick or the photocopier, because that's what it is. So they should have banned it. It's Splinter Twin all over again. I don't get why they don't see the logic on this. So, like I said, if this deck takes off, they're gonna ban it. The deck is just too hard to play against and too unfair. So hopefully the math and the logic and everything of it add up. But I don't think Wizards learned the lesson. So the whole point of this video was, yes, they banned Splinter Twin. Good for them. Yay, they love players. They like being fair. Oh, good, they banned Amulet Bloom. A lot of people happy about that. It's OP. But they're still not going to do anything about preventing the situation in the future. They're going to wait until people have already pissed people off with a deck, then ban it. It's just stupid. It's absolutely stupid. So hopefully somebody from Wizards gets a clue. Like if you're working at Wizards right now and you're just bored as crap, so you're surfing YouTube and you're like, let's go watch some of these videos. Oh look, it's Desolator Magic. Oh great. Bring this up in the next board meeting that maybe you should pull your heads out of your butts and decide to actually ban some cards before they become a problem, and maybe you'll be able to have a year of Modern without a bunch of people complaining about it. Wouldn't that be something? If you do want to see my deck and copy it and piss off Wizards with it, definitely hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to be posting it probably within 2 weeks if it works perfectly at the next tournament. So if it tests out well and it's better than 2.0, which I don't know if you saw the gameplay footage from 2.0, but I went up against my best deck with it, SEAL Team 6, and SEAL Team 6 successfully cast 0 spells the entire game. They just kept getting hit. Every single spell they cast, the entire game got canceled, and it got shut down and just stomped in the middle game. So game 2, you're going to want to watch that one. It's hilarious. This deck is going to be that deck on steroids, because I decided to finally come off my mono streak and dual color it. So crap like Hindering Light is going in, and Isochron is going to be even more important, but the deck functions without it. It's a war crime. It is a complete slap in the face to Wizards. And that's why I built it. So I will definitely see you guys next video.